Well, welcome everybody to, this is the most charming woman in the entire world.
Right back at you.
Oh, Veronica Taylor. Let's give her a great big round of applause.
Thank you, thank you.
You are having a good time.
Yes, I am. I'm just looking for my little air tamer. I really have not been out in many crowds without a mask, so I just have my tiny little air device, so I'll put that on since I'm not wearing it. So please forgive my reaching. I know that this looks really good on video. So, this is all real life. I think that's one of the great things about being a voice actor, being a human being. It's just that here we are, you know? Yeah. We all show up, we are who we are, and we are moment by moment. I think also, after being shut in our houses for so long, we are who we are again. So, yeah, this is it. I'm really thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course. We're so thrilled that you're here.
It's been great to be in Baltimore. I'll say that. I haven't been here in so long. So
yeah?
It's really great. I know, it's so fantastic.
Well, it's great to have you here. So we are going to take questions here in a little bit, so think of some really good ones. And then, I'm Christy Blanch, by the way. I get to moderate with this charming woman. So we're so glad you were here with us. I just want to talk a little bit about you, and then we're going to open it up to questions.
Sure.
So how did you know that this is something that you wanted to do, is to be a voice actor?
I actually never chose to be a voice actor. I just wanted to be an actor. And I guess I knew when I was 5, I did a play. I was Goldilocks in Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And I remember in the middle of that, one of the performances in my pre-first grade show, when the Goldilocks is trying out all the chairs and she sits in Baby Bear's chair and it collapses, I remember thinking, hold for the laugh. And that's when I realized this is what I want to do. And then I did every play I could in elementary school, in high school. I went to college. I have a BA in acting. I went to grad school. I have a BFA in acting. I toured the country with Shakespeare, contemporary, and children's theater. And I just happened to get into voiceover through a couple different voice-related jobs. And really, I think ultimately it's a matter of being in the right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. So I was prepared, I had an opportunity, and I stepped through that open door. And here I am today.
Yes, you are. So what was the process like when you were trying out for the role of Ash?
Yeah, so most of the shows I work on, you don't have a lot to prepare, and you don't have a lot of time to kind of figure out what you want to do. And this job is an extraordinary example of that. We went to a very small studio. We saw a teeny clip, maybe 30 seconds of Pokémon. We were told that they wanted the voices to sound as close to these original voices as possible. So we watched that a few times, had the script, and auditioned. So a lot of it is about making very quick decisions. And I think that's where, for me, my acting training comes in. Because in acting class, you learn how to break down a scene, how to make decisions on who the character is, in this case, how they might walk, where the sound is placed, how they might sound, and then you decide many things about them very, very fast. And then you switch and do another take in a totally different way. Mm-hmm. So for Ash, I guess I was the closest, and that's how I got it.
So did you know anything about Pokémon before that?
I didn't know anything at all. And I did find out a bit later that this was the show that caused children to have seizures in Japan. And somehow I still was excited about working on it. So I don't know what that says about me. But yeah, I didn't know. That's 1998. I didn't really even have a computer then. So there wasn't any. The only thing I knew about it was what I read in the New York Times.
So when you started doing this, did you have any idea that years later you were still going to be the voice of Ash?
No idea at all. I mean, when we auditioned, they said this show is going to go on TV, and none of us believed it at all. I mean, I worked on a lot of other things before that, and they didn't quote, go anywhere. They just were out in the, I don't know what it would be then, the VHS ether. And so this actually did go on TV. I was on the show for the first 8 years before we were replaced by Pokemon USA. So the fact that I had a job even for 8 years, and that I'm still here talking to people about their experiences, that 8 years is a really long time. It was, I mean, the only job I've had longer than that is being a mom, you know, and that's a lifetime achievement job. So it was, yeah, I can't even believe it. But I think really we owe that to all of you. The fans of Pokemon is what keeps it going, because the interest in it, I think, when you even look at everything that has sprung from Pokemon, the drawings, the fan fiction, the groups that people have related to Pokemon, the Pokemon Go groups, you know, all of those things that really keep what I think is the true spirit of Pokemon alive, which is friendship and helping each other along. All of that is so important, and Pokemon would be nothing without all of you. I would be nothing without all of you. It's just amazing to be here, so thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Woo!
It really
Sunday
is
morning.
Unbelievable that
Yeah.
Pokemon, when my son, who's now 30,
Yeah.
just was obsessed.
Right.
And now my grandson is still, he loves Choo Choo. You know, it's just, I'm trying to get him go to Bulbasaur.
That's, yeah. Is that your favorite,
Yeah.
Bulbasaur?
But
That's so
but
funny.
yeah, but it's just like, I was like, I cannot believe this is still here, you know.
Yeah.
I always do when I was young, we only had 51 Pokemon.
Right,
You know?
right. Back in the day,
Yeah.
there was a handbook that was this thick.
It was.
Yeah.
I know those. The new ones, I'm like, I don't know.
There's so many, I know.
There's so many.
What's the count now, you guys? 1,000, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot to remember.
Yeah.
Well done, you.
So, but this isn't, your whole career is just not Pokemon. You have been April O'Neil. Mm-hmm. You have been in several Final Fantasy, done that. You narrate audiobooks. And I'm just going to say this. So my best friend, Garrett Gunn, who I write with, is doing an animated version of Franklin and Ghost.
Right, his amazing comic book, your amazing comic book, yes?
Yes, and you are going to be in a voice in that,
Yeah.
along with Sean Schemmel and Billy Bob Thornton and
Chris Sabat.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I'm so
thank you
stoked for that.
It's so exciting.
You know, the thing that's really interesting is that doing animation takes so long. And when you watch animation, it seems so easy and so effortless. But when you think about with this project specifically, the comic book is written, a decision is made to animate it, then you find people to do voices, then you do demos, then you look for funding, and years can go by.
Yeah.
But we're all working away on this, and so people can say, so what are you working on? And there's really no reason to talk about it yet so much, because there's no date that I can say it will be coming out. But it is a really exciting project. And I just saw the trailer that they showed at New York Comic Con.
Yes.
Amazing. It looks just like the comic book.
It is.
too.
It's, yeah, keep your eyes open for Franklin.
Yeah, I'm going to
Ghost. You're
post that
gonna
on
love
social
it.
media, actually, the trailer.
Yeah.
So since that's public, since I hadn't seen it, I'll post it for all of you guys to see.
And if they aren't following you on social media, where can they find you on that?
Yeah, I am the Veronica T, which is THE, Veronica T, on Instagram and Twitter, and the Veronica Taylor, I think, on Facebook, and veronicataylor.net.
There you go.
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff going on. On TikTok, I'm the Veronica T also. My daughter and I are trying to do some more weirdo things. We're starting a little podcast talking about the first season of Pokemon. Since she was born, she was born at the end of the first season, so there's a lot of episodes she hasn't seen just because of life in general. So we thought we would go back through and talk more about generationally the lessons we've learned from it, and have a few special guests along the way. So we started working on that.
Yeah, Rena is amazing. You've done a just great job.
She
She's
came out like
amazing.
that. Thank you, though.
She's
I'll take
awesome.
credit since she's not here. So.
So, anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Start right here.
My favorite Pokemon is Pikachu, of course. I have to, Pikachu's my favorite. I spent so much time with it that I have to say that.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I saw some hands right back there in the black. Yeah, you.
My favorite region, I think, is the very beginning, which I like to refer to as the Orange Islands, and I don't think that's the technical term. But I just loved the simplicity of the first season, the colors. It was so primary. I think it lends itself to you just kind of sinking into your imagination and, okay, thanks, Helen, and your creativity. So I liked how simple that was. I also love the fact that they're just roaming around in nature. You know, they're not in towns that much, and I loved that.
And then right in front of you.
My least favorite Pokemon? I used to say Snorlax, but I really do like Snorlax, but Snorlax doesn't do that much but stop up the rivers, you know? I don't know if I have a least favorite. Do you? Yeah. There you go. See, we all have something in common. We start with that in common, then we find out we have so much more in common. Pokemon is a great thing to bring people together. I think it's amazing.
It is. All right, somebody else had right here.
Yeah, so we did, in the first 8 seasons, we did the TV show, the movies, we did any of the video games or any of the other things that came out of that. Sometimes I don't really know what we worked on because they were allowed to pull our voices and use it wherever they wanted. So my voice may be associated with some things that I didn't know it was. But with the movies, for instance, the story itself was a bit bigger, a bit broader. And so I think as an actor you could dive into the story a little bit more, but really the recording of it was the same as the TV show, where, and to tell you more about that, you basically walk in the morning, you get your script, you're looking at that, you see the video on the screen, you have your headphones on, you hear 3 beeps, and then you start talking on the 4th beep. So we never really previewed what was there before. We didn't go over the script. I would just skim down, see where my line fit in the scene, read the lines around mine to figure out kind of what they needed from me, what I needed from them, and then we would just go. It's a pretty fast process, which is why I think having some acting training really helps, because you can make quicker decisions. The thing about dubbing is that you might read your line one way, but when you see what the character's face looks like, you realize you have to shift to do something else. The first movie, though, we did get to record in a big studio with a giant screen and a podium in the dark with a little light. It was so amazing and so real feeling. Whereas when we record the series, we were just in a little studio somewhere. You just go in, say hello, get in the booth. It felt kind of ordinary. But the first movie especially was extraordinary. Yes, Helen? The first movie? Yes. Yeah. The thing is that in many of the movies, we see that Ash puts himself on the line for his friends, for his Pokemon, and that the power of that friendship kind of brings him back to life. And so the good thing is that he isn't gone, he's always there, but they revitalize him. So, yeah, I think Ash would say, or I would say, I'll always be here.
How many people cry in that first Pokemon movie?
I did.
Bawled like a baby.
I know. And many of these people were babies.
They were not born yet.
When it came out.
I took my son and nephews, and they were like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like,
I know, it's so sad.
Pika.
I know, it's so sad. I know.
Over here.
So like tips on getting into voice acting? I think everyone that you ask will have a different answer. For me, I think it's important to extend this answer to anything you want to do, especially anything creative, whether you're an actor, singer, writer, musician, artist. You want to learn everything you possibly can about your trade. I think that you also, as a human being, always want to love learning, so that you're always open to learning more things. As an actor, I think training really helps, so that you know how to breathe, you know how to use your voice correctly, you know how to do your job when you have the opportunity. All of that training really helps. For me, doing theater helped I can speak to reach the back of the room without a mic, or I can speak quite intimately into a mic. But I know how to regulate that because of training. I think having a demo is really helpful. If you have something that's a minute and a half long, that kind of showcases what you do. And there's definitely different demos you can listen to online, but if you do a lot of impressions, then do that. If you do, like I do, I like to say voices from age 0 to 100. So my demo, I have a range of voices like that. You definitely need something that you can email out to people to say, this is who I am. And I think networking really helps, whether that's meeting people here at a convention where you can share ideas and maybe work on each other's projects, where you try to have jobs that are in your field. Maybe you work in a movie theater, or I used to do a lot of children's parties, a lot of face painting and all of that stuff, because I was still, I was kind of working my trade in that sense, and trying to make some money to pay rent at the same time. But then I met people who were working on things that inspired me. I listen all the time so that I can pick up people's accents, the cadence. That helps inform how I choose to do a character. When I'm working on an audiobook, I do all the characters. So I'm constantly figuring out if there's 4 girls in the show, one is going to be higher, one will be a little less high, one will be nasally, one will be whatever. And I think about people I know, and then I try to model it after them. So all of that, I don't know, you're just constantly working and practicing. So that's a very rambling way of answering your question. There's no one way into voice acting. There's no one way into acting, nor any other creative field. But I think really pursuing your passion and knowing that that's what you love helps. That's a giant step. One of my greatest acting teachers said, if there's anything you can do other than acting, do that. Because the highs are high, but there are many, many lows, which are pretty low. So you want to be able to sustain yourself through all of that. You're welcome.
Dee Bradley Baker, who is amazing, has a great website called I Want to Be a Voice Actor.
Right.
So check that out.
Yeah, he has a lot of great tips on there too, and everything.
He's Bad Batch, and it's like, he's amazing.
I know, he does a lot of sounds and things. That's like watching Pokémon. There's so many just sounds that you have to make. So that's something you can't really practice, but it is in improv classes, you do a lot of gibberish talking and like fake accent talking, and that helps to get your point across without using an actual language or actual words. We haven't released it yet. We're just starting. My daughter and I have, like, for instance, right now, we are at the tail end of being on the road for a month. We left LA a month ago, and so we're almost back. We've been going to a lot of conventions, and we were at I don't know exactly what to call it, but it's a market for television shows and things. We were in Cannes just recently, pitching some of our projects. So we're kind of figuring out how to get started recording the episodes while we're traveling, because we have a lot coming up. We don't have a set title yet, so I won't say anything, but we will talk about it on social media. That's our voice when I'm not seeing you in person. So, wow, it's really mysterious, isn't it? Yes. Yes. Yeah, so there are a lot of theories about why Ash is 10. It would be cool if he was immortal, or if he was in a coma and he wakes up, just like in the Bob Newhart show, I think, where he'd be like, oh, Mom, I just had the weirdest dream. And then Misty shows up. I mean, crazy stuff. That would be so funny. I like to think about Ash as he's 10, kind of like we all are 10. There's that little 10-year-old inside of us who still has, anything is possible. You know, when you're 10, you don't have that many chores, your homework isn't that big of a deal yet, you don't have to pay rent. So you can really dream about what you want to do and just think about anything, really. And so I think that Ash is that for us. He represents us in our purest form. And so I love all the different theories, but I think it's really pretty great that he doesn't change. He's wiser, just not physically older. And isn't it kind of good that you don't have to worry about him like going out on a date or, you know, shaving or, you know, all this stuff. He just has to worry about if he has clean underwear in his backpack, you know? Simple things, which I kind of like.
I agree.
Yeah. I loved the trio of Ash, Brock, and Misty. I thought that was pretty great. They really balanced each other out. I played May, so I would have to say she's my favorite. But I think that was another interesting conglomeration of people because she had to take care of her little brother all the time. So it was like they had a Pokemon who could speak, you know, who needed to eat more. So I think that taught us more about having to really pursue your goals, and you had a big responsibility right beside you, more so than Ash and the responsibility to his Pokemon. So yeah, I guess ultimately the first three is really my favorite. And same with Team Rocket and Meowth. I just really love that. I think they're pretty great, and they're so funny. So,
Yep.
yes. Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, there are so many. I mean, it's amazing that the show is still going on. From my first 8 years, I would have to say the first episode is my favorite. First of all, I think all of us, when we encountered the show through that episode, had no idea what this thing was about. But what we learned right away is that Ash is just like us. He gets up late. He's disappointed because he doesn't get his choice. And yet, he literally lays his life on the line for this Pokemon that he doesn't really want, but knows that this is what he has to deal with, and he has to make it work. So even in that, we learn about courage, loyalty, what it takes to be a champion. So it kind of lays the road work. And then every episode got better and better, and they went on bigger and bigger journeys, and the battles were amazing and all of that stuff. But the first episode remains my favorite.
What's your favorite?
Yeah. We also recorded that many times because they changed Ash's name. We started out saying Pokemon, and we had to go back and say Pokemon. So, you know, all of that. So it's the most, that sticks in my mind the most clearly.
Way in the back.
Yeah, I was only in the first 8 seasons, and then it was totally recast by Pokémon USA, and all new people took over all the voices, all the writing, the directing, all the other little parts like engineering and mixing and all of that stuff. So I'm only in the first 8 seasons.
There's one over, somebody over here? Right there.
If I could tell, gosh, so I probably got my first anime in maybe 1996. So what would I tell myself? I would tell myself that it was okay to say no, that I wasn't available on a certain day, because now I know that sometimes they can reschedule you. But as a woman and as an actor, you're very easily replaced. And I will say that for most of my career, most of the jobs I've had have actually said, if you don't like it, we'll replace you. So I think I might have said to myself, fine, then I would stand up for myself a little bit more. But I don't know, even now, I worry about that all the time. And I think for women especially, it's very difficult. It's difficult to figure out what the game is and then know how to play it. But for instance, no one has ever asked me this question before, actually. When September 11th happened, we were recording Pokémon, and I had dropped my daughter off at her little school and stayed there because we had heard about the planes going into the buildings. And there was still a part of me that was saying, oh, this is nothing, I really have to get to work, because if I don't go, they're gonna fire me. And even in the week that followed, we weren't really able to leave our apartment, because if we went above 14th Street, we couldn't get back down to our apartment. So in that time, I realized that I couldn't leave. I couldn't leave my daughter. The air was really bad still where we were. And things shifted a little bit for me, because I had to protect my daughter and then myself too. But then I said, I can't come in. And they worked around that. So little by little, I've learned that you can stand up for yourself. And I encourage all of you to think about that, to realize that you are not so replaceable, that in your heart you have to know that, even though we're not treated so equally everywhere. But I think that's really important. And I think that's really important. We're coming up to voting. I think that's really important in our lives to think about equality and how much we all are so valuable. And we are not told that we're valuable, that we are pushed apart, but we're stronger together, and we're only as strong as our weakest link. And that goes for everything. And so I encourage you all to be able to stand up and know that you are, well, my shirt says it, your voice is powerful, and really use it wisely, use it when you can, and use it for yourself as well. That's a really long answer to your question, which went around, but I think it's really important.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so when we watched that little video, I just heard the voice of the original actress who played Ash, and then I just tried to mimic it. So that was pretty quick. And then when I was cast, I started thinking about how can I anchor this so I can remember it. And I thought about my little brother was 10. I thought about Spritle from Speed Racer, and also Rudolph from those Rudolph stop action little Christmas things. So, she thinks I'm cute, as Rudolph was kind of here, and Ash in the beginning was a little more nasal, which a lot of boy voices were a little more nasal.
And so he started out about here, Bob, here, and then he got a little clearer, and then later he was a little brighter, higher, and then he can get kind of low.
So there's a bit more range that was able to develop over time, but in the beginning it was just, Mom, I would put it here and just go from there. So who knows if that was a great choice. It's not very vocally hygienic. You don't breathe when you're doing the voice, but.
Okay. You had a question.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot more artificial voices now. And I've even heard lately that they're trying to record audiobooks with a robot voice, basically, so that it is a person who can so I worked on something that, for IBM, that eventually became the voice of Watson, that we recorded hours and hours and hours of just words. And then those words are picked apart so that with Siri or other, whatever you call those things like Alexa and whatever, it's not necessarily that person said, turn right on Augustine Street. Some of it could have been Augustine, and they can pick it apart. So you could have an audiobook. Today was the day that she went to the store, and she went, and so they can pull that, and if you don't care about the quality, you could listen to a whole book with that. Whereas I narrate in a very different way, and I'm hoping that can't be replaced by a robot, essentially. But I do think it is impacting voiceover specifically in a big, big way. I was just talking to someone else. I was looping so when you're dubbing animation, you're replacing the voice, and when you're looping, you do that for live action. And I was looping a foreign language, I think it was a series or something, and they're trying to do, I'm gonna just call it robot voices for the sake of this, the robot voice for that stuff, so they don't pay an actor to come in. So you don't have any of the emotion, you don't have any of the, I don't know, just a change in cadence or thought behind it. You don't have that. So I think it will impact unless we all stand up and say no. But it's definitely impacting everything. Yeah. I'm sorry for you too.
Yes.
Hi. Yeah. I have Pokemon Go on my phone, but I often forget to play. But I'm like level 8, so I'm really bad. I really should play a bit more. Do you play? Yeah. Oh, right. You were, because we went to the same restaurant for dinner. Right. Yeah. I think I'm such a low-level trainer that I don't have a code, so I've got to get one, so then I can be friends. I have no friends. That's the sad thing. All right, but you're on. You'll be the first. All right?
Okay.
I have not played any Pokemon card games. I would love to. I don't know that much about it in terms of I would never win at all. Yeah, I know. They're so fun, and it really builds such a great community also. So yeah, I'm interested in learning at some point. Thanks. Ash Hat Pikachu. Hey, I'm liking the sound of that. Do you have it on you? Like, do you carry it with you all the time? Oh. See, I carry an Ash figure with me everywhere. I'm so literal. Hey, all right, let's talk about that later. Thank you. I don't even know if I can accept that. So let's see. Okay, we'll try it. Yes. I think it's a really great question. when we first started Pokemon, I think we were a year behind, but then it caught up and we were just a few weeks behind. I don't know, for a lot of anime that I work on, there are very tight schedules, and I actually don't know if it's about a week behind or whatever. Obviously, it has to be done in Japan or whatever country it's in first, and then it comes to America. They have to look at it, they have to translate, adapt, and then record, and then mix it. And so I would say at the most, I would guess a week is the earliest you could be chasing that. But I think without knowing the schedules, definitely we are always, like, there's no time to joke around. You just get in, you do the work, you get out. And it's been like that since 1998. Yeah.
Okay, we have time for one more
Oh my gosh,
question.
you guys, this has been so lovely.
Right up there.
Pokemon, I think, well, Ash for today would say, Baltimore Comic Con, I choose you! It's been awesome to sit with you. You could be the best Pokemon trainers in the world! Maybe you already are. Woo! The clapping goes to you. Did you actually have a question? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes, as an actor, I tend to really connect emotionally with whatever's going on in the scene, so sometimes things are quite difficult. When you're dubbing, you only see your own lines. So for instance, spoiler if you haven't seen the first movie, in the end, close to the end, when Ash is battling and he dies, I didn't see any of that because he doesn't have any noise in that. So there's not until I watched it later did I realize the emotional impact of the scene. But for me acting that, the emotion was in him reaching and trying to save, and that was the difficult part. When I narrate audiobooks, there are some things that when I'm reading it, as we all have read books that we're sobbing during it, that you can't, as a narrator, be sobbing, because also as an actor, when you're crying, the audience doesn't cry. So you have to hold it back. And when I narrate, I do sometimes, I can't hold it in, and then I'm crying. Then I have to stop because my nose is stuffy, and it doesn't make sense that the narrator has a stuffy nose, but the character was crying. So, it goes back and forth. That's really challenging. So I read, I've read so many amazing books, amazing authors, but one Judy Blume book called In the Unlikely Event, and at one part of that, the character was so upset, and I kept saying, I'm fine, I'll just go, and then I'd be crying again, and so that's really difficult. But that's a great book if you haven't read it. You're welcome.
Okay, well, we are out of time, but you will be at your table.
Yes.
For
Yes.
the rest of the convention. Do you have any more photo ops today?
I do have a photo op at some point. It's listed on the board by my table. I'm taking a quick lunch right now, so I'll be back down there at 2 o'clock. Yes, I've seen a lot of you already. This has been an incredible weekend. I grew up in Arlington, and it's so nice to be home coming here. So I know we have a rivalry between Virginia and Maryland, but I like to think of us as a big, huge, amazing state. Anyway, thank you guys so much for coming, and especially for supporting Baltimore Comic Con. This is an awesome show. Thank you guys.
Let's give
See
a
you
big
later.
round of applause.
Thank you so much.
This is Debbie Derryberry, and you're watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, geniuses know you need to have fun and follow your fandom. Got a blast!